I may?
Yes.
Every piece of credible evidence in this case proves one thing, that she's guilty. All the testimony, the scientific evidence, the physical evidence, the demonstrative evidence, everything points to one conclusion: she is guilty. Even her own testimony proves she's guilty. Because it's impossible to have happened the way she said it. It is scientifically, mechanically impossible for it to happen the way she said it. Her story is that she grabbed a gun, put it to her head, pulled the trigger, and it clicked. The chamber was empty. That's what her story is. And that's what Officer Noonan's story is, too. She pulled the trigger, clicked, nothing came out. It wasn't around in the chamber. She even said she told everybody how stupid I am. I tried to kill myself with an empty gun. But what do we know about the gun? What do we know about her gun? Because after she went to the floor, Lieutenant David picked it up, put it on the bed. Officer Noonan picked it up and put it on the table. And then Officer Core came in the room. And what happened then? Officer Noonan said, secure that gun, make it safe. And so what did he do? He took the gun, he found that black box, the safe. He made sure that was empty, he turned it over. He pulled out the magazine that you can see right here. He opened the chamber, and there was a round in the chamber. He dumped it out into this safe and put the firearm in it. And then they stood watch on that until State Trooper Bonasaro took it back in the lab. That magazine that you have in evidence contains 16 rounds. It was a 17-round capacity gun. It contained 16 rounds, plus the one that was in the chamber. 17 rounds. As we know, there are only two ways to get a bullet into the chamber. One is if there's already a bullet in the chamber. Someone pulls the trigger. A bullet comes out, the casing comes out, the chamber's open, the spring allows another bullet to come out. That's one way, and we know that didn't happen here. The gun didn't fire because the chamber was empty. The only way a bullet gets in this chamber, other than that way, is if someone racks the gun. She said she didn't rack the gun, but there was a bullet in the chamber. She did rack the gun. What did Officer Noonan say? She pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. She stepped back, tap racked, tried again, didn't do it. Tap racked again, pulled it, and that's when he fired. She put a round in that chamber. That's the only way it got there. Her story can't be true. She got up on that stand and she lied to you. It's scientifically and physically impossible for her story to have happened the way she said. That's what the evidence shows. But she didn't just lie to you then. She lied again. She lied at the scene about where the guns were. And she admitted that, and I understand that, right? And she said she lied to the police because she decided to kill herself. But when did she say she said that? They had been to the house. They had talked to her, according to her. She now started contemplating all of the ramifications of what's going to happen to her. Because she's losing her life, her job, her son is being taken away, all of these things. And so she's going that over her head. And then minutes later, as she's walking through the house, She says, my gun's in the basement, because that's the time she made the decision to kill herself. Later on. And we know that's a lie. We know that's a lie because what was one of the first things they asked her when they went to that house? They asked her to put the baby down because they were concerned with the baby, told her the restraining order, what the parameters were, and asked where your guns are. When she was still sitting on the sofa. They weren't waiting to ask that question so she was already walking around the house. No way. And what did she say there? They're in the basement. And we know she said it there before she moved around the house, which is untrue, because her friend, Officer Houston, who was invited to her wedding, says it also. He says, Sergeant Daly asked. And then remember what he said? He said, I was in the living room, she was sitting down, and then I saw a gun case on the other sofa. And so I opened it up to see. And she said again, I already told you the guns are in the basement. Now, why at that point did she say that? We don't know. She didn't tell us, because she lied to us about why she said it later, because we know she didn't say it later. So she lied again. You can't trust her. She also lied about knowing that her mom was in the house. She was upstairs. The officer, Noonan, I think it was, Noonan heard an older woman's voice down there and said, who is that? She says, I have no idea. She doesn't know her own mother's voice, her best friend that she just talked to come to the house. And she said she didn't know whose voice it was. Another lie. She said on the stand yesterday that she didn't know Justin was in the house. And we know that's a lie too, because what happened when the three of them were upstairs? It's Noonan, it's Houston, and it's the defendant. She hears him downstairs. Houston hears him downstairs, and she says, keep him away from me. I don't want him in my house, or something to that effect. And that's when Houston went down to make sure he wasn't coming up and went to the basement. She knew he was in the house. She absolutely did, and she lied to you when she said she didn't yesterday. And you know what else she lied about? Something so simple, but it shows who she is. The restraining order. She said, the restraining order was taking my dog away. It says it. It doesn't say that. Nothing about the dog in there. I could go on about the lies, but I want to talk about the credible evidence. The credible evidence in this case. When Lieutenant Daly got a call, actually got a visit from Justin Elaine when he was in the lobby of the PD. And Justin told him he got into a 9A against Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And Detective Daly knew that she had been sectioned before, that she had guns, that they were taking the child away from her for a period of time. And so what did he do? He called Officer Houston. He asked Houston to call Daly to meet up. And why did he say he did that? He said because those two are cool, calm, and collected. They don't panic. They keep things calm. That's what he said. And that's why when he called Houston, he said, can you call Daly, we got to do this. And so he wants you to believe, defense counsel, that Pat Noonan was cavalier about, oh, okay, sounds good, we have to serve a restraining order. But that's not what happened. He was mischaracterizing it, and I hope you remember, in the grand jury minutes, because Houston had called Pat and said, hey, we got to serve an order, can you meet me by the school? And Pat said, sounds good. It wasn't until he got over there, it wasn't until Lieutenant Daly was there that they learned really what they were going to do. And they went over there. And defense counsel asked Daly, you guys were cavalier about it, you knew her, weren't worried about the guns, all this stuff. And Lieutenant Daly said, no. No. His quote was, we had an increased level of diligence. everyone was more on point because they did know what they were walking into. They did know. They did know that she had been sectioned before. They did know there was going to be a baby in the house. They did know that she had guns. They did know at that point that she had parked her car far away. This is all going to what they were thinking at that point. They did know all those things. And they did know Justin's concerns. He said, according to Lieutenant Daly, I'm worried she's going to kill the baby, kill herself, and kill someone else. So that's what they were thinking when they went into this house. That's the credible evidence when they went in there. And what did they do when they went in there? They sat her down, and they allowed her, or maybe they asked her, I can't remember, to go around and get some stuff for the baby, because she knew Justin was coming to get the baby. And they were in her pocket the whole time. They followed her around the house, at least two of them, while she did that. And you know that because even Officer Houston said, I was in her pocket. We went into the kitchen, and I noticed there were butcher blocks with knives on it, with knives in them. And they were concerned. There was no chance they were leaving her alone. No chance they were leaving her alone. Officer Noonan. Officer Noonan. All of the testimony that you heard about Officer Noonan, even from the defendant, he's a gentleman, he's experienced, he is by the book, and his training and experience starting in the military, through boot camp, through security forces school, security forces squadron, with all the training he had, and Humvees and helicopters, and the SWAT team, 2 times a month training, clearing rooms, clearing buildings, hostage situations, missing persons, no-shoot scenarios, twice a month, and a 40-hour block every year. For over a decade he did that. And he moved to Lawrence, as far as the department goes, because it was busier, and he had more experience. He was cool, calm, and collected. There's no doubt about that. And to say when they're upstairs and he walks away and leaves her alone because he heard a commotion that Officer Houston was going to attend to is a joke. It really is. Now, how do you know they were going by the book at that point? And how do you know they were villagers? Because they followed around everywhere. Because both Houston and Officer Noonan said she kept handing us things, and we kept putting them down. We wanted our hands free. Because they were ready for whatever happened. Hopefully nothing did, but ready for whatever happened. So at some point, Houston and Noonan are upstairs, and the defendant goes into her room. And she hears Justin, and Houston goes down to keep the peace to make sure he's there. And Officer Noonan is watching her. He's watching her. And she's on one knee, and she lunges, and she disappears. And she emerges with this, pointing at him like she is trained to do. Click at his face. And what does he see next? He draws his weapon, and he says, this testimony, it kind of slowed down. The whole thing took maybe 4 seconds, maybe even 3.5 seconds. His training has kicked in. His experience has kicked in. It was a surprise to him, certainly, because she got the drop on him. And why did she do this? Who knows? Maybe he's right. Maybe she was going through him to get to Justin. Maybe she was just so upset she was going to shoot anybody in front of her. Maybe she wanted him to shoot her. We don't know because she lied about it? We don't know. But the fact is, she started to shake, she started to tremble, and she lunged for the gun that he couldn't see. And what happened after she flipped? She stepped back, and now he knows, based on his training experience and the clip, there is not a round in the chamber. He knows that, and so he doesn't shoot. According to the defendant's testimony, he had every right to shoot at that point. And you know what? He actually did. He had a right to shoot her at that point. If you point a gun at a cop and pull the trigger, they get to shoot. But he didn't, because he was controlled and disciplined. That's the way his career went. And so she steps back, tap, crack, and tries to do it. He doesn't shoot her then. And what's he doing at this point? Kelsey, no. Kelsey, no. Because he knows the threat isn't there, really, because there still wasn't one in the chamber. Kelsey, no. Kelsey, no. He is being disciplined like we wish every police officer, every law enforcement agent in this country was. He should be applauded for his actions on that day. Tap rack again. Now he knows one's in the chamber. Threat's on. She starts to raise it, and he shoots. He shoots twice to stop the threat. He stopped shooting when the threat was neutralized. Defense counsel, during his cross-examination, well, you would unload it or not. He goes, no, that's not what you do. You shoot until the threat is neutralized. She was now down on the ground. But his training and experience are still taking over at this point, because what does he do? He still has his gun on her, because the gun's still there. He can't see it. Lieutenant Daly comes in, Lieutenant Houston comes up, and what does Officer Houston say that he sees when he comes upstairs? That Officer Noonan is standing there with the gun low and ready. His training is still taking place. He's still doing what he was trained to do. The gun is put on the bed. He's calm and collected. He takes the gun and moves it away so people are safe. He's deliberate in those actions. When it's away from her, he starts to tend to her. Officer Core comes in, and he orders, well, he asks Officer Core to make the gun safe. He's cool, calm, and collected. That's what Lieutenant Daly expected, and that's what he was. He didn't make a mistake. That's what the credible evidence shows. And what did he say to Officer Houston after? And this just goes to state of mind, I know. That she pointed the gun at me, and it clicked. And she tried to rack another one. Immediately after, this wasn't him saving his hide or protecting himself. Seconds after this happened, that's what he said. Every piece of credible evidence points to the inescapable fact that she is guilty. Every piece of physical evidence, scientific evidence, mechanical evidence, every piece of testimony from Daly to Houston to Core, even Lauren Page, the mother, even the defendant corroborates what Officer Noonan says. Every piece. Your Honor, I would suggest to you there is only one fair and just verdict in this case, and that is guilty. Thank you.